Hello, I'm Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Hockle, the CTG Superintendent for the 2020 California Wing Encampment. Today's Encampment Academy topic is the daily retreat. What we're looking at right now is how the daily retreat starts. This is a group in-line formation with the NCOs in front of it, so it's an NCO formation. The flight sergeants here are going to be 3 paces in front of the flight. The first sergeants are going to be 9 paces in front of the squadron, and in front of the entire formation you have the group superintendent. Between the flights, you have 4 paces measured between the guide and the assistant element leader, and 19 paces between the squadrons, again measured between the guide and the assistant element leader. To start the formation, the group superintendent commands, "Assemble your squadrons." At this time, the first sergeants in unison face about and in succession call, "Fall in." As soon as the flight sergeants have heard their first sergeant call, "Fall in," they face about in unison, and again in unison call, "Report." At this time, the element leaders salute with their head and eyes facing forward, so they're not going to turn their head and eyes. They're just going to look forward and call, "Blank element all present." Not all present or accounted for, just all present. The flight sergeant then returns the salute, and it goes on to the next element, and so on. After all the elements have reported, the flight sergeants face about. And after all the flight sergeants have faced about, the first sergeant calls, "Report." At this time, the flight sergeants in succession salute, turn their head and eyes, and call, "Blank flight all present or accounted for." Or for alpha flight, it would be "Alpha flight all present or accounted for." The first sergeant would then return the salute, and it would move on to the next flight sergeant. As soon as all the flight sergeants have given their report, the first sergeant faces about, and the group superintendent will call, "Report." At this time, the first sergeants in succession will salute, turn their head and eyes, and call, "Blank cadet training squadron all present or accounted for." Or for the 148th, it would be the 148th cadet training squadron all present or accounted for. The group superintendent would then return the salute, and it would go on to the next CTS. After all the CTSs, the group superintendent is going to call, "Post." At this time, the first sergeants and flight sergeants are going to take the most direct route to their posts, and the flight commanders and squadron commanders are going to align with the first element of the entire formation. So let's watch this one time, then we'll go back through and look at it a little more closely. Okay, going back. So each of the NCOs are going to take the most direct route back to their posts again. So let's say this flight sergeant over here for Delta Flight is going to go back to his or her post. They're going to perform an about face, step off with a face in marching towards the leftmost flank of his or her flight, and then proceed directly back to the left of the last man of the last element of his or her flight, which would be right here. They would then execute an about face to face with the rest of the formation. This first sergeant would face about, perform again a face in marching, stepping off the left foot, go to the leftmost flank of the squadron, go around the flight sergeant who should already be posted, perform any pivots as necessary, get to his or her post, and then execute a left face to face forward with the rest of the formation. The flight commanders are going to take steps forward. So let's say this flight commander has 3 elements in his or her flight. So that flight commander is going to take 3 steps forward to get aligned with the guide. Let's watch this one more time, and then we'll move on. As soon as everybody has taken their post, the group superintendent would face about and wait for the adjutant. The adjutant would then enter the formation, and the group superintendent would call, "All present or accounted for, sir or ma'am." At this time, the adjutant would return the salute, and as soon as the group superintendent drops his or her salute, the commanders then take their posts in front of the formation. Let's watch this one time through, and then we'll go back and then go a little bit more into detail. So let's go back and watch that again. So the flight commanders are going to immediately step off with their left foot and go up to their post, which is going to be 6 paces in front of the flight. The squadron commander is going to step off with their left foot and immediately go to 12 paces in front of the squadron. This is not going to include any pivots within it. So you're not going to go up at 45 degrees and then go up at 90 degrees. You're just going to immediately take the most direct route to your post. So let's watch this one more time. So again, for flight commanders, this is going to be 6 paces in front of the flight. Squadron commanders, 12 paces in front of the squadron. The adjutant would then command, "Give your squadrons present arms." At this time, the squadron commanders would face about and in succession call present arms. Now, it's important to note that the flight commanders here, when they're echoing this preparatory command, they're going to look over their right shoulder and give the command to their flight. They're going to wait for the command of execution to turn their heads back. So the squadron commander is going to give the command of execution. It's not going to be the flight commanders. But when they're calling present, they look over their right shoulder. When this happens, they're still looking over their right shoulder. So these flight commanders are still looking over their right shoulder, waiting for the command of execution. As soon as this command of execution is given, they then snap their head and eyes forward, and while simultaneously performing the command, which would be present arms. Moving down the line, as soon as all the squadron commanders have given the command, they would face about and they would execute a present arms. At this time, the group commander and his or her staff would enter the formation. The adjutant salutes and calls sir or ma'am, all present or accounted for. The group commander returns a salute and commands take your post. At this time, the adjutant takes his or her post. The group commander then calls give your squadrons order arms. The squadron commanders immediately drop their salute in unison and face about in unison and in succession command order arms. Same thing with the flight commanders, except now they're going to drop their salute and look over their right shoulder with their head and eyes. And as soon as the command of execution is given, they're snapping their heads forward at the same time as everybody else is dropping their salute. As soon as all the squadron commanders have given the command, they then face about as soon as their squadron is done. The group commander then commands publish the orders. At this time, the adjutant comes forward and publishes the orders, starting with attention to orders. As soon as the orders have concluded with Civil Air Patrol commander, the adjutant faces about and immediately takes his or her post. At this time, the group commander calls, give your squadrons parade rest. At this time, the squadron commanders face about and in succession command parade rest. As soon as their squadron is at parade rest, they face about and immediately execute a parade rest. The group commander then calls quietly to his or her staff, change post march. At this time, the staff executes a change post, and the group commander executes an about face. At this time, the group commander would then call parade rest quietly to his or her staff. The group commander, now that everybody in the formation is at parade rest, would call sound retreat. At this time, retreat is being played. Upon the conclusion of retreat, the group commander calls staff attention quietly to his or her staff. The group commander then faces about and calls give your squadrons attention. The squadron commanders execute attention and face about and command in succession attention. As soon as their squadron is at attention, they execute an about face. The group commander then calls give your squadrons present arms. At this time, the squadron commanders would face about and in succession call their squadrons to present arms. As soon as everybody in their squadron is at present arms, they then face about and execute a present arms. The group commander then faces about and calls his or her staff present arms. After this, the national anthem would be played. Upon the conclusion of the national anthem, the group commander is going to quietly call to his or her staff order arms. Upon this command, the staff executes an order arms. The group commander would then call change post march quietly to his or her staff. Then the staff would execute a change post march, the group commander would execute an about face, and the group commander would then call give your squadrons order arms. The squadron commanders would then face about in unison and in succession command order arms. After their squadron is at order arms, they immediately execute an about face. The group commander then calls the honor flight commander and guide front and center. At this time, the honor flight for the day that was announced during the publishing of the orders would then come up. We are going to quickly go through this. So the process is that the guide and the flight commander, as the group commander says, honor flight commander and guide front and center, they're going to go up to the group commander. And how we do this in California Wing to standardize it is that the guide comes up to the left of the flight commander, and then they both immediately go up, marching towards the group commander, stop 3 paces in front of him or her, and execute a present arms. So let's watch this one time through. It's important to note that the flight commanders are going to have to, the flight commanders and the guides are going to have to listen to what flight is being called for during the publishing of the order so that they can know whether they're going to go up or not. So for the purposes for this presentation, we're going to say that Charlie flight here is going to be the honor flight of the day. So let's watch this one time through. The guide comes up, and then both the flight commander and the guide come up to 3 paces from the group commander. The flight commander then calls present arms to his or her guide. At this time, they both execute a present arms. The group commander then congratulates them, places the streamer on the guidon, and then returns the salute. As soon as the salute is returned, the flight commander then calls order arms to his or her guide. At this time, they are both at just the position of attention, so the group commander would then call take your post. Upon this command, the flight commander and the guide are going to face about and take the same route they took to get up there back to their post. So let's watch this one time through. Again, this is not the most direct route for this guide. In order to standardize it and make it look as professional as possible, the guide is going to come up to the left of the flight commander. So just remember that when we are going through the daily retreats, and make sure your guides are prepared ahead of time to look out for the flight during the publishing the orders and know what to do if your flight is called. Moving on, the group commander would then call take charge of your squadrons. As soon as the squadron commanders salute and the group commander returns the salute, the group formation is over, and now we have squadron formations. As soon as the group commander has dropped the salute, again, the squadron commanders will face about and immediately call their honor flight of the day. At this time, they would announce an honor flight similar to how the group honor flight was announced during the publishing of the orders, and then the squadron commanders would call honor flight commander and guide front and center. So for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to have Bravo flight for this squadron and Charlie flight for this squadron be our demonstrators. So again, the same thing is going to happen. The guide is going to come up to the flight commander for both of them, and then the flight commander and guide are going to both immediately step off to go into a position 3 paces in front of the squadron commander. So let's watch this one time through. Okay, so now that they're 3 paces in front of the squadron commander, the flight commander then calls his or her guide to present arms and executes a present arms at the same time. Now that they're both at present arms, the squadron commander congratulates them, places the streamer on the guidon, and then returns the salute. As soon as the salute is returned, the flight commander then calls his or her guide to order arms. At this time, the squadron commander would then call take your post. So this is going to be the same as it was for the group formation. The flight commander and guide are going to face about and take the same route back to their post. As soon as they are at their post, the squadron commander would then call take charge of your flights. The flight commanders would then salute, squadron commander would return the salute, and as soon as the salute is dropped, the squadron formation has ended. So now we are down to the flight formation, and the flight commanders have charge of their flights. The flight commanders would then, so the flight commanders have, in the least strict sense, flight commanders have full control of their flight. But at Encampment, what we are going to do is standardize what we do after this in order to get everyone off of the parade field as fast as possible. So going back one slide, the flight commanders have just taken charge of their flights, and now what they need to do, their goal, is to get their flight off of the parade field as fast as possible, but keep their guide there with them so that they're ready for KPF. So there are 2 things they need to do here as fast as possible. It's follow their guide out and then get their flight sergeant to take charge of their flight. So the first thing they're going to do is call guide fall out. At this time, immediately the guide would execute an about face and go fall out of the flight, but stay in the immediate area. The flight commander would then call flight sergeant front and center. At this time, the flight sergeant would come forward to a line with 3 paces in front of the flight commander and execute a present arms. The flight sergeant does not need to report in with his or her full name and grade. It's just a quick salute. The flight commander returns the salute, and quickly the flight commander gives the flight sergeant control of the flights. So as soon as this happens, the flight commander then needs to go back with his or her guide and get ready for KPF. So the flight sergeant's goal right now is to get the flight off of the parade field as fast as possible to do whatever activities they had already planned on doing. Now, it's important that you are already prepared so that you're not planning during this time right here. After the group daily retreat, it should not be time for planning on what happens next. The flight sergeants, you should already know what you're going to do after this formation. So make sure you're prepared for that ahead of time with your flight commander. So at this time, the flight commander is going to get back with the guide, and the flight sergeant's goal right now is to get the entire flight off of the parade field to do the training or go to dinner or whatever is on the training plan for that portion of the day. Thank you for watching.